Berat gila tu.
Or should we go from bottom up? I guess that's more
Let's go with prizes.
prices. Okay. What
I think maybe we'll go with like. Oh, sorry.
Like how should we address the equipment?
Like...
Oh, Zati, you're muted
Okay.
again. Hang on.
Hello.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. You guys were overlapped just now. So Haris, what were you saying?
Oh, okay. I was saying, I think since you started with the belt, it was what we should get first. So what next? Like what after the belt? What do you think we should get next? Yeah.
Okay, this is my personal opinion. So I personally would get a knee sleeves, because it adds easily 10 kilos on my squat. I know, controversial, but I think a good knee sleeves trains a very good squatting habits, and a good knee sleeves also, I guess, among other things, protect your joints and whatnot. Not necessarily if you do crazy shit and daily max out, that will not do it. But in general, it gives you the support that you need.
It keeps it warm.
I guess all of us uses the same brand. Like most powerlifters in that I know use this brand called SBD. Again, this is a plug, SBD. By the way, SBD, if you want to sponsor us, we welcome you.
Yes, please, SBD. We can really use some gear and some sponsorship money.
Anyway, so SBD sleeve is the one that you see. I guess if you go on my page or any of us page lifting, the ones on the knees, the one that I use is the original sleeves. Occasionally they release, they call it seasonal sleeves. They come in different colors. But more importantly, what I find is, and I think a lot of people agree, they come in slightly different tension or give in the material.
You mean like with the different versions?
Yeah, so the original is super snug. So if you think you have big legs, think again. You probably don't. Because I think my first purchase was, I was confident, like, yeah, I'm going to get an M. And then, mate, it was too big. And I thought I had big legs.
I thought I had big legs. Quote of my life.
I thought I had big legs, but I didn't. So, and then I was trying different sizes with the sleeves. And the reason why I got SB straight on, even though I guess they're the most expensive in the sleeves, I might not be correct, don't quote me on this, but the reason why I got them, because one, everyone has been talking about them, so I was quite certain they had the quality that I was seeking. Number two, I think it was that if I were to factor in the things that would add kilos to my totals, it would be sleeves other than belts. So that was the reason why I decided to go with sleeves. What about you guys? Like, what made you guys want to get sleeves then when you were deciding?
Haris?
Okay. I think if you asked me this question like 5 years back, I would say sleeves after the belt. But now, because of the existence of Notorious Lift, which is like a shoe that's specially designed for powerlifting, I think I will probably go for the shoe over the sleeves once you get the belt. The reason being is because, again, like the belt, the shoe is quite universal. You can use it on all three lifts, whereas the knee sleeve is pretty much only on the squat. Yep. And even then, I guess the sleeve probably does add a bit to how much you can squat, maybe like, I don't know, 5-10 kgs maybe. But the shoe, I think, makes a lot of difference, especially in the deadlift, as well as the bench. If you really know how to utilize like your legs in the bench. Sounds kind of weird, but it's it's gonna be a different topic. But yeah, I think having like a solid shoe that grips the floor really nice can make a lot of difference to the amount of total that you can put up on the platform. And even your consistency when you train, like if your technique is not consistent because not consistent because of your footwear, then that's not going to translate very well on the platform as well, because you'll always be ingraining bad habits. So this is not a plug. We're not sponsored, but we have, our arms are open.
We are welcoming.
Very much welcome.
Please help us.
Yes, please. So after the belt, if you can invest in a good pair of shoe that you can probably use for all three, that has good traction on the floor, I think that would go a really long way, lah.
Notorious, other than Notorious, what do you vouch for? Like, what kind of shoe? I guess give a bit of insight on that.
Oh, okay, yeah, sure. So I think what if you are new to powerlifting, you probably see the culture in powerlifting is that people would use like a weird looking shoe for squat, like a fancy looking, almost. Yeah, so those are called weightlifting shoes, and they have a raised heel at the back. And they were designed for the sport of weightlifting, not so much powerlifting, because people need to get into deep squatting positions without their ankle inhibiting them. My personal preference is I don't really think you need those shoes are needed unless you have really problematic ankles, like if you are flat-footed and you really can't get into a deep squatting position without your foot, wanting to roll over or whatnot. That aside, I think now I can just like boil it down to getting a pair of I think what's called I think it's aqua shoes or like diving shoes, water sport shoes, because those shoes tend to be quite cheap. They have very thin soles, and the grip is pretty good. So gonna give a specific example. Again, no plug, but we're open to sponsors. So if you live, I'm not sure about like East Malaysia, but in Semenanjung, you go to Decathlon, they have these aqua shoes that cost 20 ringgit, um, and they're probably like way better than what people used to use in the past, which were Converse Chuck Taylors, which costed a lot and
Way more.
didn't have way more, like has worse grip,
And they weren't even
thicker
flat
sole.
foot. And it wasn't even
Exactly.
flat.
Yeah, it wasn't flat. It's like, well, it was
It's
thick and
concave.
cool. Yeah, concave. Exactly. So the toe box was not in contact with the ground. So yeah, so Decathlon, 20 ringgit, and you're set to be a powerlifter.
Okay, Jack, hold on. What are the things or the criteria that one should look in getting a good lifting shoe? I mean, boil it down to flats, right? If we were to look for flats for lifting, what are the things that we need to be aware of before we, choose them?
Okay. So firstly, I'm gonna go with a general approach that everyone doesn't have any like glaring issues with their feet. For example, like if you have flat foot or yeah, mostly flat footed, um, just get any shoe that has good like good grip on the sole. Like you can really like if you won't slide around and you can actually push against the ground without your foot slipping. That's one thing. And then the other thing to look for is the sole has to be even, right? As well as thin. So the extreme opposite of that is if you get running shoes where the sole is squishy, and if you try to like you won't feel yourself even on the ground. You'll find yourself like the pressure points might be a bit different. It's just because it's different designed for a different purpose. So thin sole, grippy sole, and even. And for people who have trouble, who have flat foot, you might want to look into getting shoes that have, what do you call it? Shoestrings or like metatarsal straps, what it's called, that can lock your ankle in place or give your ankle some support, lah.
Yeah.
But I think for most people, I think even if you have flat foot, you can probably get like if you train yourself to an extent, if you don't want to invest money on shoes that have those straps, which can cost quite a bit more. For the most part, if you buy the shoe that I recommended, the Decathlon shoe, I think it's a pretty good place to start because you have nothing to lose. It's only like 20 ringgit, so I think it should be okay lah.
Yeah, I definitely recommend that to a lot of my like new athletes as well. Because especially when they change, they start traditionally with like Chuck Taylors, or some, in fact, they've already pre-invested in like heeled shoe, but they don't really know how to squat, so they needed to dial it back and learn from squatting with your feet, right? So in order to do that in a gym, you don't want to squat barefooted in a nasty ass gym. So I recommend the Decathlon 20 ringgit diving shoes. I think a lot of people are taking it on now at the moment. Because
It's gonna be the wave.
yeah, it's gonna be the next wave, isn't it?
Yeah.
Anyway, Michael, you squat with heel, right?
I was using heels for a bit, but I regularly squat with flats. Well, okay. Before that, I'm gonna just quickly state my gonna be devil's advocate here for a bit. You guys are saying,
Yeah.
oh, belt, knee sleeves are the next most important thing.
Gone.
That's gone, right? Shoes are the next most important thing. I'm gonna say wrist wraps. Okay, wrist wraps. I'll get back to why that's the most important piece of equipment. The next most important piece of equipment behind your belt. Okay, but on shoes, right? On shoes. I prefer squatting in flats definitely, but I feel like at some point if you have like any sort of tightness, like right now, like if you got ankle mobility issues or if you have like really tight hips, for example, I think those are stuff that you can kind of work on and improve and just go back to flats, right? But they are good sort of, I guess, crutches in a way. They kind of help out with the issue for a bit, but I mean ultimately the issue's there, right? Yeah, so I mean, when I squat low bar, I guess I mean, because right now I'm training at home, like I use bare feet. But yeah, anything that's got good grip, like what Harry said, anything got good grip, that's thin, close to the ground, it's perfect for powerlifting. Like you don't need fancy stuff like any sort of weird shoe that has like some Chuck Taylors, Jordans,
Jordan
like
1.
yeah. I mean, people are squatting Jordans. I mean, you want to squat. I mean, fair enough. No shade on people that want to squat in Jordans, right? But I mean, you're powerlifting. If you drop a plate in your feet, I mean, there goes you. It's creased as fuck. You know, like you don't know what's going to happen. Like you kick shit in the gym. You know, goodbye Jordans, like that sort of thing, right? So something that's basic, simple. You know, I'm a simple man. Just like get it down.
I mean, if you can afford it, if you can afford a Jordan and drag that into a gym.
Yeah, I mean that's on you, man. Like go for it, go for it,
Yeah.
bro. I mean, ain't no one's judging, you know. Just yeah. So that's on shoes, right? With sleeves as well. I'm gonna go a bit controversial here and say that sleeves don't really add much to your squat, right? Because like as much as like hopeful or wishful as we think, right? Like, oh yeah, if you put something on our knees, like that's gonna help. But for the most part, like if you put something, if you visualize knee sleeves on like a machine and you kind of like just load it up a bit more, like how much resistance is that gonna add towards your squat? Is that gonna add 10 kilos? Is that gonna like lighten it by 10 kilos? You know, just some food for thought, you know. But I think
it's not lightened though. I think it's the
it's a sensation sort of thing.
what's the technical word?
Proprioception.
Proprioception, yeah, proprioception.
Yes.
Yeah.
It
It is the proprioception. Yeah, it's I mean knees warm, like that's what they always say, like keeping your knees warm, giving you a bit of pop out of the hole. Yeah, sure, those are like more like anecdotal stuff, right? But
Correct.
in I think with everyone we can agree that it's the proprioceptive feedback that we get. Like we know how deep we're going. We know that yeah, we got to come up now, or that's that sort of thing that knee sleeves gives. Right. So back to my equipment, right? Okay, wrist wraps. Wrist wraps are the most important thing, right? Because how? Can you guys squat without wrist wraps? That's my point made. That's my point made. Right there. Because in powerlifting we squat with low. You see, everyone's laughing, right? Because you know it's true, right? Because okay, so in powerlifting we I guess we want to lift in the most efficient way possible to lift the most amount of weight possible, right? And to do that, when we squat in a specific position called with a bar in a specific position called the low bar position. That's slightly low on the back, right? Which is slightly different from Olympic weightlifting squatting, where it's like the bar's a lot higher up. And so this sort of position on the back, right, like it really puts a strain on your wrists, like because it's number one, it's okay to get a shorter range of motion. I guess the bar sits lower, right, and that's very advantageous. That puts kilos on your squat, right? Just having that bar like few inches lower. And so because of the rule that you have to hold on to the bar, right, like you've got to have your hand around the bar, like that causes like tremendous strain, like as you squat, right? Like especially like for me, like I cannot squat the way that I squat without wrist wraps. That's 100% for sure. Like I will get like mad wrist pain. It's gonna sting. It's just impossible, right? And so because of that, like I feel like that gives a really strong argument for wrist wraps, right? If you're squatting in a high bar position, that's fine. You can compete in a high bar position as well. I mean, I know a few strong powerlifters that do that. But if you do compete in low bar, the wrist wraps is a must. Like if not, like it's gonna cause problems over time. Like if you start out really flexible, that's gonna go away if you start squatting low bar. Like it's gonna start getting stiffer and stiffer just because in the position that's in, your wrist does take some of the load when you squat. So yeah, that's a very strong case I think for wrist wraps. Because at some point, like your wrist is going to be a limiting factor. You're going to experience like pain, and it's just terrible. Like, and that's going to affect your bench as well. It's with bench, it's not such a strong case. Like, you can bench without reps. Like, it's fine. You just gotta learn how to move and keep it balanced over your wrist. But you do get an advantage with bench, like especially I think if you have like a really wide grip, or if you bench your wrist really cocked back. That you would get an advantage with in those positions, I think. But yeah, I've made my case for wrist wraps. That's it.
I mean, I agree. I do not disagree at all with all the points that Michael said. I don't think I can squat without a wrist wrap, given how I grip it this way. Like, it's not even cocked back. It's actually like the bar is on my fingertips, and it's internally rotated. So it's I don't know if without wrist wrap, you're probably gonna not break lah, but it's probably gonna.
It hurts, yeah.
On your wrist, as well as benching. Most powerlifters bench with a wide grip because it shortens the range of motion. So, and then in order for you to, I guess, perform that safely, most people internally rotate their grip when they bench. So, and then that also put a lot of pressure inside your wrist. Wrist strap is important. I wouldn't say it's important. None of this are important. I'm just saying
they all work together.
Where the benefit lies, right?
Yeah.
Most. Harris would argue shoes more because I know him for a while. He has been on and on with shoes. Literally, he had bought so many shoes, from boxing shoes to like China slippers to
Fei Yue.
Finally, yeah. What was it?
Fei Yue, right? The brand.
Yeah,
it's like kung fu slippers.
Yeah. And then last,
those were
I
gifted
think,
though, so it didn't count.
And lastly, I think you finally bite the bullet and got yourself the Notorious.
Yeah. And I think you know why I want it. Like now that you have it now, I think probably get why.
I mean, I'm blessed. God knows that I haven't gotten the resources to get that, and somehow I'm blessed to want it. But yeah, for brands wise, you can get any aqua shoes. They probably give you some, most of the advantage you're looking for. However, I think specifically for that particular brand we're talking about is Notorious Lift. The sole makes a huge difference. It's very supportive, so it envelopes your big toe, your ankle, and the brim of your feet. Oh, what's it called? I don't know. But basically, it holds your feet in almost like this very tight sock, I think. And if you pull sumo, conventional, bench, and squat, all the lifts, all the kind of lifts that you can compete with, it suits all the needs that you need. So I haven't found any complaints for myself.
Well, I own a pair of Notorious lifts as well, and I guess I have a qualm with them. Is that because when I squat, like I tend to like grip the floor quite a lot, like and Notorious helps with that a lot, right? But I'm also quite like, I wouldn't say high arch, but like I've got quite a strong arch, and like when I grip the ground, like my feet kind of scrunch in a certain way as well, and that really takes a toll on the material of the shoe. Like it's not to say it's a bad shoe, but I feel like it's just at certain styles of like squatting, or you need like there's some sort of durability. That's like a cost that comes with it, right? Like so my strap, like the metal tassel strap, because the Notorious lift is relying on the metal tassel strap, right? You've only got one strap that goes over your feet. Or two. You got two, right? Yeah, two straps. Yeah. So, and the metal buckle actually, like the strap loops through. And the strap itself, like those are getting worn down really fast, like at each squat session, because like the shoe is like stuck to my feet, and like I'm just crunching the ground, and it's just getting like there's so much tension in there that I'm actually really worried about it. So yeah, I definitely prefer, like, if anything, like I would bench with it, I would deadlift in it, but squat in it, not so sure, because I pull conventional, so that's alright.
I don't really squat in flats anymore. I used to. For the longest time, I squatted with A6 Mat Flex 5, which is I guess a wrestling shoe.
Yeah.
Am I correct?
Yeah, wrestling
I think-
shoe.
Yeah, so wrestling shoe, I use it for about a year. I love that shoe. However, I think I have sort of a wide feet. The shoe is a bit too narrow for me, and it hurts my toe. So I decided to change to like aqua shoes, right? Then I tried aqua shoes, one without the straps. It was okay, but it didn't give me the. I don't know, something was lacking. I felt like something was not giving, and then I thought it was fatigue as well. So I changed to my original squat shoe, which was the small heel Powerlift, Adidas Powerlift. That has a 0.6 inch heel with, so I call them the baby heels, that with the metatarsal straps. So it's like best of both worlds almost for me. And for people who wants to seek out for heels, if you've known that, okay, flats doesn't work for me, or I need something, you want to try something else for heels, always start with the small heel. Do not brace yourself with a 1 inch block that's weightlifting, meant for weightlifting or CrossFit, because more often than not, the baby heel does the job. And I had the high heel, which is the Nike. What's my shoe? I can't remember.
Romaleos 3,
yeah.
I think.
Yeah, the Romaleos 3. It's okay. However, I think I tend to slide in the hole when I squat. Yeah, I try to slide. Yeah, I wish that was my DM. No, anyway.
Okay.
No,
TMI.
TMI, sorry. Anyway, squatting with the high heels, you tend to sort of slide into the hole as you squat. So I recommend for anyone who wants to start lifting with heels, always start with the baby heels. So the available options, the most obvious one is the Adidas Powerlift, or I think Reebok has another one, which is a small heel as well. So that is the cheaper version. Or you can also get the China version, which is available on Shopee and Lazada if you look for it. Yeah, it's quite cheap. Otherwise, if you're confident high heels is for you, then there are plentiful of options for that, because there's a whole different spot that's that requires that. So you can also use that as a proxy to your lift. Yeah. So shoe wise, up to you. Try it on. Start with flats first. Always learn with flats first. I encourage that, because that's the easiest. As you advance, as you progress, then play around, see around, test around. Always use the opportunity to try other people's shoe or like other gears before you invest yourself, because it is expensive. I think we can close off this episode with that I guess superficial advice. Try it on first before you get one. Ask around, ask opinions. Hopefully you find the right one for you. So I guess in the next episode we can talk a bit more, because since we're talking about what's expensive and what's not, we can always talk about is gains expensive.
Yeah, I think in the next episode, because right now we've talked a lot about gear, right? And it's pretty expensive, That's the take-home message of this episode. It's fucking expensive. So, right, and you know, as much as we wanna, you know, we get gear, we're like, yeah, I'm gonna get so fucking jacked with this gear, right? I'm gonna get so strong. You know, at the end of the day, you know, it all comes down to you as well, right? Like, you know, how much effort you put in the gym, like, you know, just putting on like a SBD belt and like SBD sleeves and like SBD headband and shirt, you know, that's not gonna make you lift like 200 kilos.
It's not gonna make you a world record.
Yeah, you know, it's all about like training. It's all about like it's about just kind of putting the work in, right? And so, yeah, and as Zati said, in the next episode, we're talking about whether it is a financial stress. Where do we get financial stress? Being strong. Would you guys say you're strong?
Kinda.
Yeah. So, right. So, in the next episode, we'll be talking about how much it costs to be strong, and yeah, stay tuned. So,
Wait, can I just add like one woke food for thought?
yeah.
before we-
Whoa, food for
So,
thought.
sheet up. Come on, let's
Yeah.
go.
Yeah. So I'm pretty sure some people listening to this will probably think when it comes to gears, like why am I wearing all this stuff, which I'm not gonna apply to like real life, right? So they might think that the more gear I wear, the more like counterproductive it becomes, because I want to go to the gym to be healthy and to be strong and to be for it to apply or carry over to the things I do in life. But then all these gears are pretty much like faking it because they're giving me like enhancements, right? So my answer to that is, if you are going to the gym to powerlift to do a sport, then that kind of thought doesn't really make sense, because if you want to do a sport, you have to play the part. You have to like be fitted for the part. So these gears are gonna help you be better at your sport, right? But if you want to be generally more functional, then I guess then I would understand why that reluctance towards gears would happen. But I think even if you think that those gears might take away how functional you'll be, I don't think that's 100% true, because these gears might actually aid you in that pursuit, because you're probably more likely going to be a bit safer in the gym with these gears, like how much your longevity with training and stuff. So yeah, I think you might want to view these gears as something that assist you rather than take away from your, even if it's like general strength or general health or whatever. Yeah, so I think it's a myth that using gears is gonna take away from your ability to be functional or whatever the hell that means.
I think it makes you. It doesn't. You don't get any points for not wearing it.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's the message that we want to convey and drive home.
Yeah, it's not cool to have no gear.
It is
so
better
forget
to
about
train.
it.
Yeah, it is better to train safely with all these gears than it is that 1 second of pride and ego. Yeah, I squat 4 plates, no sleeve, no nothing. Like, think that as that. Like, right, you don't get any points.
Some people might be offended you said that.
If you've listened to this podcast this long, I don't care.
All right, guys, that's it for this episode. So have a good one. Stay safe. I see you next week.
Ciao.